Welcome to Soulfire Wisdom with Kate Olson. As an evolving spirit and change adventure navigator, it is Kate's mission to empower and guide you on your path and inspire your truest passions. She will encourage you to share your gifts, speak your truth, and ignite your inner wisdom and purpose. She hopes to do so with a little humor and grace and her own soulfire passion. Kate talks with amazing guests who have embraced the pursuit and are fanning the flames of their own passion, purpose, and soulfire wisdom. Now here's your host, Kate.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Soulfire Wisdom and Totally Awesome, Try Something New and Talk About It Tuesday. So what I tried this week is I tried a new type of supplement. It's called GEM, and it's a supplement that's made out of natural food sources. And instead of coming in a tablet or pill, it comes in a little square cube that well, it's actually just a little bite-sized, and they call it a bite, a little bite-sized, looks like a little brownie square or something. You take one of those a day, and it has mushrooms, coconut, spirulina, ashwagandha, curry leaves, chia seeds, pumpkin seeds, sea minerals, red algae, chickpeas, chlorella, dates, and quinoa. And that gives you 15 plus vitamins and phytonutrients. And the reason why I tried it is because it doesn't have any like binders or fillers or any, chemical additives in it. And it's all natural. It's made in the US. It's non-GMO, what is that? Keto, it's keto friendly, and it's, I should know this one. If you have, anyway, the reason why I took it is because I think that getting your vitamins and minerals from food sources is the best option, but it's sometimes hard to, eat enough variety of foods and enough foods, basically, to get all the vitamins and minerals that you need. So their concept sounded good to me, and being as I've only tried it for a week, I can't really tell you what the results are. I tried a little trial packet that they have 3 different flavors. They have cacao, lemon, and peppermint, and you get 5 bites of each. So you can try it for 15 days, and I like the cacao flavor best so far. None of them are like yummy, but none of them are, like, oh, I can't stand this either. So anyway, I'll let you know later, what the results of whether it makes me feel better or not. And we have a really great show planned for today. My guest is Megan Cuzzolino, and she's a wellness coach, a retreat leader, and a yoga and meditation instructor based in Brooklyn, New York. So wellness is a second career for Megan and was born out of her own need to reduce anxiety and take a closer look at her own lifestyle and self-care practices. Megan came from a background of working 9 to 5 and not buying into the woo-woo there is to be had in the wellness world. Her aim is to make all things wellness and intentional living more accessible and digestible for folks who don't really want to drink the Kool-Aid. She's known for her approachable attitude and techniques, helping people take small steps to reach big goals and shake off everyday anxiety. And I kind of related to Megan a little bit because as life coaches and hypnotherapists go, I'm probably I probably believe a little bit more in the woo-woo than she does, but probably a little bit less than a lot of other, life coaches and hypnotherapists. So I'm kind of maybe in the middle on that. So, that's, I actually connected with her though through her mom, who I met at a speaking event at the Harvard Faculty Club. And of course, her mom talked a lot about her two beautiful daughters. And since Megan was in the wellness field, I started following her on social media and saw some of the things that she was doing. So I'd like to introduce her now. Hi, Megan. How are you?
Hi, Kate. I'm good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you here. Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and, kind of what got you to your current path?
Yeah, totally. So I'll start by just saying that I'm not known for my brevity. I'm quite a storyteller, so I'll have to probably cut myself off a couple of times.
Fine.
Usually one simple question can be, the whole hour. But yeah, as you said,
well, I might stop you then because go ahead.
As you said, I was in, a more, I guess you could say, traditional career path right out of college. Being from New Jersey originally, I moved out to Colorado and I got into environmental sustainability. And I was doing that for 7 years and I loved it. I loved everything about Colorado and just absolutely gorgeous place to be. But yeah, after 7 years, I just kind of was feeling this itch for a big change. And I didn't really know quite how big of a change I was accidentally signing myself up for, but I decided to quit the job. I sold the condo that I had bought. I had gotten very settled down in my life in Colorado and had kind of been checking off the boxes that I assumed we were all supposed to check when we got out of college, became an adult real quick. And so I decided to kind of cut all that loose and come back to the East Coast, ultimately landing in New York. But since I had the time and a little money in my pocket and no job that I needed to, worry about, I took some time to travel. And so pretty cliche, it took a pretty strong eat, pray, love turn. And I very, randomly, seemingly, but not at all randomly, I'm sure, stumbled into this wellness retreat and just kind of gobbled it up over the course of a week. And that was the first time that I had realized that, a lot of the stuff I had been dealing with, like anxiety and digestion problems and just a lack of motivation to, go to work every day, just not feeling that passionate about what I was doing anymore. A lot of these things I realized didn't need to be that way, and that I could change. I could take care of myself better. I could address my anxiety, and I can do whatever I want, whatever that makes me happy. And so that was really a huge turning point for me, that 1 week at this wellness retreat in Spain. And so it was basically from that, the next couple of years were a stumbly process of trying to sort out exactly what that was going to look like, and how I was going to make money. And I mean, it really only got harder for a while. But yeah, that's where it started. So
Yeah, the money part sometimes does
yeah.
have that stumbling block effect. But what did you do? You said you worked in sustainability. What
Mhm.
aspect of that did you do? Or
Yeah, so I was really interested in green building coming out of college. And that, it made perfect sense because I grew up wanting to be an architect, and I also grew up as like in high school, I was president of the environmental club. So I was always like really interested in eco-conscious living, as we would call it now, I guess. And also just housing and design and that kind of stuff. So by the end of my time in college,
so
and do that.
oh, okay.
So
You're
what I go ahead.
you're freezing up a little bit.
Okay.
I don't know. Go ahead. Keep talking. Maybe it was a temporary.
Okay. So when I got to Colorado, the first job that I had was working for an affordable housing developer. And so I became just the person that figured out how to incorporate any green features into the houses that we were constructing. Now, of course, that was 2006 was when I graduated. So it was a big housing crash. All of our building got slowed down considerably. So my job got expanded quite a bit to just become kind of a more general project manager for more projects than I was originally kind of assigned to. But, I still had the green component, and I really loved all of it. And then after 3 or 4 years there, I moved on to work for the city of Boulder, where I managed energy efficiency policy and programs like rebates and assistance programs for residential homeowners in Boulder. So more of the kind of administrative, behind the desk, whereas before I had been really on the construction site a little bit more, digging in. But I did that for another couple of years working for the city. And Boulder, again, is one of the best places to be digging into that kind of work. They're doing some really innovative stuff. So it was exciting. It was a really cool place to be at that time. Yeah, so I mean, all of that still very much like lives in me.
Yeah, it is kind of related. It's just another aspect.
It's very related, and all the retreats that I lead, thankfully, me and my chef that I work with are super on the same page about it. But all our retreats are zero waste, and we just like really take that into consideration as much as we can across the board with everything I do. So.
Great.
Yeah.
So I was always curious from the very beginning of how you picked that lazy wellness coach name.
Yeah.
Because in following and watching your social media, you seem anything but lazy.
Yeah, it's true. Maybe I wish I was more lazy. I think it's funny. I mean, and again, this could snowball in a lot of directions, but I think so that the actual story of where that came from was, I was operating just as like Megan Cuzzolino for a long time. And for, a kind of separate reason, I needed to come up with a brand. It was time to come up with a brand name. And I was sitting with and one of my old professors from JMU, where I went to school in Virginia. I was at his house. We've done some work together in recent years, which has been a really cool way to reconnect. I was at his house, and I was like, Eric, I gotta figure this out. So we opened a bottle of wine, and we were like, okay, let's just brainstorm. And he was so great to just sit and like bounce stuff back and forth. And what I said to him, I was like, he was like, well, what do you do? Like, how do you describe what you do? And I was like, I feel like what I do, it's like lazy wellness, and like, that's kind of how I had always said it in my head. And he looked at me, he goes, write that down. So, and it's just felt like the right fit, So what it means to me is just kind of getting rid of like any even aim for perfection. I think kind of what you were saying earlier when you were introducing me, like the whole idea of like drinking the Kool-Aid. I know that like coming from a community like Boulder, which is super health conscious, everybody's really, really fit, everybody's like scaling rocks everywhere you look, like it can be really overwhelming. And I know when I was there, I just never felt like I was never going to be like one of those people. And so it really kind of struck me when I was traveling and having that whole experience with the wellness retreat that, you don't need to be this certain kind of person. You don't need to like go 110% on all the things like all the time, but that it's like about finding the right balance for you. And so, yeah, it's just kind of like scaling back from that like 0 to 100 mindset, or that like us or them almost kind of mindset.
Yes.
And
Definitely.
it's also meant to be like a little bit of like a, like a poke at the fact that we tend to consider things that are really actually necessary self-care, we can feel lazy for doing them, And so, yeah, so there's meant to be a little bit of humor in it. But yeah, it's just like a easy approach to wellness. Like, let's just take it one step at a time.
Yeah. Well, the reason why it caught my attention is because I have a son who's he's a sports fanatic, and he's really, like healthy in one respect, not his eating habits, but he exercises
Right. He's
a
active.
lot. And, but he's always been, like, he thinks that whole world of like yoga, meditation, and it's a shame because he has anxiety at times. But he thinks that whole thing is something he could just not get into.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of like, maybe
it can be hard. And I think that's one of the hardest things is like people have to come to it on their own,
Yeah.
And I was the same as him. I thought it was a total waste of time, meditation. Like it just wasn't for me. I thought I literally could not do it, that I could not sit still. And therefore I thought it just wasn't for me. And, I was just somebody who I was like, I just function better just constantly going all the time. That's just how I function better,
Yeah.
And then it was right before I left Colorado, which, it makes sense. Like I was kind of tearing apart my whole life and going into this big unknown adventure. As much as I had planned it, like obviously there's just so many things you can't plan. And I started having terrible, terrible panic attacks. And it was terrifying and still to this day, like one of the worst things I've been through. And, they happened a couple of times and I started seeking out resources. And, of course, one of the first things that I did was I got a prescription for Xanax. And, I think in a lot of places, like that would be the end, where a lot of people are like, okay, I got this taken care of now, but a friend of mine got me a book on meditation and I read it and I tried and I tried and I tried and I tried and I tried. And then it was going to that wellness retreat and being able to dig in a little bit deeper and just having that space to kind of explore on my own, where I was like, okay, this doesn't have to be like weird, this doesn't have to be, it's not religious. Like it doesn't make me any certain kind of person to do this. And just like, it's so much ego, and
Yeah.
I mean,
it's like you don't have to buy into the whole thing, like you can do yoga or meditation and, like my son saw it as perfection. Like he also would have to, change his diet and
well, yeah, that
become,
all or nothing kind of attitude.
Yeah,
Where it's like, well, that have to be vegan and, all
yes,
this.
exactly. And buy into all the philosophies behind it,
Right.
which, he wasn't and still isn't ready to do. But yeah. So, how do you deliver your message these days? How would you
mean
say?
like platforms or?
platforms, or, well, maybe I should ask you this question first. What is your message?
What is my message? Yeah. I would say that my message, if I had to really boil everything down into one thing, it would probably be something along the lines of like, it can be better than you think. Meaning, I think a lot of folks, myself included, kind of settle for, like I was settling for having crazy anxiety and just thinking like, this is just the way it's going to be, or having really bad digestion. And frankly, it's something I'm still working out, but I'm not just settling, and just kind of, yeah, just being willing to chip away again, like taking that next little step, and really kind of expanding on that message, the fact that it is little steps, it's not an overnight transformation, and there's no silver bullet, which can be good news or bad news, depending on how you look at it. But I think that's what so many people are looking for, especially, if we get into like the diet industry and all of that, just like the health industry, wellness in general, so many people are looking for that roadmap and that silver bullet. And it doesn't exist. So it's really about taking those small steps, but first being open to even realize that like it can be better, than what you think. And that can really apply to so many different parts of your life. And I would say that probably anybody listening, whatever immediately came to your mind, probably the thing that is asking for your attention.
Yes, definitely. And also just staying open, like that thing that you say that I would never do that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
If you find that it works, maybe you would.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think we kind of put ourselves into these boxes, and one of the hardest things is to kind of grapple with and get over is that idea of self-identity, of like, well, I'm this kind of person, I'm not that kind of person, and being that like kind of black or white about it is, you're a mix of all different kinds of things, so.
Yeah, well, there's one point where you want to define yourself, and then if you do it to an extreme extent, you're actually limiting yourself.
Right.
So. What is the most impactful thing that you do with your clients, would you say?
That's a great question. Right, because I teach yoga and I lead retreats and then I do the coaching. So I would say that thinking about a coaching client in particular, I think it's really like this idea of letting yourself off the hook that has been one of the most impactful kind of tricks, of just that idea of, like not spiraling into a deeper place, whether it's anxiety or wanting to get better about healthy habits you're trying to build, and just like not spiraling down when it's not perfect, and giving yourself that grace to be a beginner at something. And I often use this example, and I hate that I can't remember where exactly it came from, but I heard this kind of analogy once that, if a bunch of adults were standing in a room and there was like a toddler, an infant that was just learning how to walk, and the baby pulls himself up and takes a couple steps and falls down, no adult in that room is going to be like, oh, that kid's just not meant to walk, didn't get it, but we do that to ourselves so much, where we're like, oh man, I tried and I stumbled, and I tried and it didn't go the way I thought it was going to go. And so we just think like, I can't do it. But real change that actually lasts takes time to build, and so I think just kind of dialing people back is kind of the biggest overarching theme, I would say, in my work.
Yeah. So you do the retreats. What are your retreats for, and where do you do them?
Yeah, so I miss my retreats right now so much because we've had to cancel a couple of them. So we hold them in upstate New York, and not too far out of the city, so that's nice. It's a pretty quick drive, or a train ride. Actually, a lot of people have been taking the train. And they are a pretty luxury weekend experience. We have this really stunning house that used to be an old dairy barn, and it has quite a few amenities. I mentioned her earlier, my chef, my good friend Alex. She's incredible. She cooks us a fully plant-based menu. She takes such good care of us. And she, along the way, really educates the whole group about what we're eating, kind of why she paired things the way that she did. We talk a lot about digestive health, which, like I mentioned, is something that I'm always really interested in myself. We have an in-house astrologer and tarot card reader. She's out of this world. And so everybody gets a one-on-one session with her. And then the rest of the weekend is, we have a couple yoga sessions each day that usually I lead. I do a vinyasa class usually in the morning and a yin class in the evening. We get outside going for a hike. We usually do one workshop. Each retreat has a theme, and so we'll do a workshop in line with that theme. And we just kind of really encourage activities like journaling and coloring and playing games. There's no cell phones, and just really embrace some quiet time with yourself or with your other retreat goers. And it's just like a really peaceful long weekend to, again, what we consider like really indulgent, but just taking care, just giving yourself that attention, just spending that time with yourself.
So did you start out with the retreats from the beginning, or was that something that you added?
No. I started the retreats I guess this summer will be 2 years that I've been doing the retreats. But I've been teaching for about over 5 years. And so no, I didn't really feel ready to do a retreat that early on. Even still, it's a lot of stress over like, is it going to fill, and obviously just the logistics of what that will look like. And so I taught in New York full-time teaching, which at the moment means 13 classes a week, but at times it was up to 20 classes a week. I did that for a few years before I felt like I had enough contacts and people, kind of interested in like what more I might have to offer. And then I launched. Yeah. And so we started with 4 retreats a year, one each season. And then starting in it was supposed to be starting in 2020, we started doing more. So we were aiming end up with 4 after all, but we were able to secure a house, and we now have our own like retreat center, so everything, it's always in the same place, and so that enabled us to increase the frequency and to kind of dig in a little bit more.
Great. So who would you say your typical client is?
That's a good question too. I'd say it varies a little bit, mostly being like age. We've had a good range of age coming on the retreats, all the way from mid-20s to mid-60s, thereabouts, but usually women. And although everybody's welcome, and we always encourage, getting all kinds of people. But yeah, I mean, obviously it's a lot of folks coming from New York who have met me in a class here. But we are getting a good amount of folks that, are from other places and are finding me online now. And I have my one now really good friend, a woman who lives in Alabama and has come on like 4 or 5 of our retreats. And so she flies in from Alabama for each one. And so, yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to pin down more specific beyond just that really big age range, and that they're usually women.
What are they usually wanting to accomplish, or are there a whole range of things?
I think, and we usually ask folks to like set an intention, you know, like what are you here for? And what I hear the most is obviously de-stress, and then folks just trying to learn how to be quiet, you know, trying to like see what stillness feels like for a moment. Yeah, I would say like that's the biggest overarching, because our retreats have been different themes. People have come with more specific intentions related to the themes. Like we had a goals and intention setting retreat in February. And so people came really specifically because everybody had something that they wanted to kind of work on. So sometimes it gets more specific like that, but overall people just need to relax, and they kind of need to learn how to relax.
Yes, definitely. So,
yeah.
So that, would you say that's the main benefit that clients could expect from attending one of your retreats or one of your classes or programs?
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of difference between all the different things that I offer as far as the classes and the retreats, but I think one of the biggest things that's come out of the retreats is a sense of being taken care of for the weekend, which is really like our number one goal, is just to let people like not think about anything, you know, like no logistics, no like what's next for dinner or anything like that. But just really be kind of guided in a relaxed way through the weekend. And the thing that always surprises people a little bit is this sense of really strong community that we get in each group. And it's Friday to Monday. It's only 2 or 3 days. But these groups are all like bonded, and it's I mean, even for me, it's my absolute favorite thing about that. So everybody does get some really good downtime. They get totally recharged. I know that my one friend who comes from Alabama, that's what she says, it's like her reset, and she comes frequently because it's like her reset button. But people really make those connections, and to me that's one of the biggest benefits. I think as far as my yoga classes, I think one of the biggest takeaways that I've received in feedback is that sense of just like, it's really okay to be right where you are today, you know? And again, that idea of kind of dialing back on the perfectionism, and just really like meeting yourself where you're at. And if that means, like I tend to say at the beginning of some of my classes, like, if you want to be in child pose this whole time, great, you know, and that still counts. It's still yoga, you know. And I think people we tend to turn self-care and wellness into another task list to be completed. And so I think really it's about kind of being able to check in with yourself and be like, well, what do I really need today? Maybe I want to do, you know, a 2-minute plank and, you know, 30 crunches, and maybe I want to lay in Shavasana for the entire hour, you know, or usually somewhere in between those two things. But yeah, just really giving people the space and the permission, which they shouldn't need, but people feel like they do need, to do what they need to do for themselves, and to actually start to learn how to find what that is inside themselves.
Yeah, that's often the big thing is, yeah. So, what would you say is the biggest benefit that you personally have gained from this big career switch to the wellness industry, or to this aspect of the wellness industry and what you do?
I mean, immediately I'm just like being happier, you know, like that for me. I think that there's just a sort of feeling, and it's almost like this kind of internal, like nails against the chalkboard kind of feeling that we can get, or like something going against the grain, that just like something is just off, you know, something is just not right. And it might feel like this constant ball of anxiety, which I certainly had, or just like this constant seeking for something else. And so for me, making that switch, you know, I'm still like, I'm always working on the next thing. And so it's not like I'm like, okay, I'm here now and this is it. There's always more, but still just feeling so much more kind of fulfilled and so much more in line. And I think aside from that, I would say, thinking at it like a little bit more kind of tangibly, is just the flexible schedule, you know, being able to make my own schedule, for me just feels so much freer. And, you know, like we said, with making this choice came some trade-offs. And so, you know, everybody has to kind of weigh what feels safer and more in line for them. But I do remember this moment when I was traveling and I was at a coffee shop during the day in Barcelona, and realized like all the life that was happening during the day, like people stopping by, people saying hi, people there doing work in their laptops. And I was like, man, I've just been in an office during these hours for as long as I can remember, you know. I was like, so much happens during the day. And I just remember feeling like I need to be part of that. Like I want to be part of this daytime like life outside of like and my last office was really dark too. So in my memory, it just felt very confining, even though I love my work and I love my coworkers, but yeah, so just that freedom and just being like more in line and more in flow. And with that, I think comes the ability to continue to create. There's just a little bit more freedom to be like, oh, I want to go this way now, you know?
Yeah. I think both of those things you mentioned, traveling and being exposed to, you know, things that other people are doing that you maybe weren't exposed to, and having a creative aspect to your work. I think those are things that, I don't know, create change, create new opportunities for people.
Yeah.
So we're getting close to the end of our time, but I want to be sure and ask you the one thing that you would like to, one thought that you would like listeners to take away from today's show.
Oh man.
Or one or two.
Yeah. I would say, I mean, really just kind of summarizing a lot of what we've talked about is like just, you know, working on that next baby step, you know, that you can take. And as you said too, like being open to the fact that something can actually be better than the way that it currently is. And just really being graceful with yourself as you take the next step and maybe stumble and try to take it again and maybe stumble again. And just getting rid of the idea that there's this silver bullet, you know, that there's like this one morning routine or fitness plan or meal plan or whatever it is that's going to work for you. But that it really is trial and error, and getting more intuitive with yourself. And so folks are like, well, what does that mean? I would say starting with finding a little bit of just more quiet time. And for me, you know, the biggest thing, again, taking this back to the idea of kind of lazy wellness and not drinking the Kool-Aid, is meditation does not need to be like a cross-legged seat in a quiet room. I mean, I live in New York, like there are no quiet rooms, you know? So, it can be so many things for different people. You can find mindfulness while washing the dishes. A lot of people find it in things like gardening. This is why adult coloring books have gotten so popular. I know, like just even something like folding the sheets, you know, folding the laundry. So finding ways to build mindfulness into your day is going to probably be, for a lot of people, the first step. To just getting a little bit more in touch with yourself, and then seeing like, oh, when I eat this, it doesn't make me feel, you know, just paying more attention to the different ways that you respond physically, mentally, and emotionally to different things. But first you need to be able to like just even check in. So I would say finding a little bit more mindfulness would be the next step for a lot of folks.
Yes, definitely. I think all of that is good advice and good thoughts to keep in mind. So thank you.
Thank you.
Here, would you like to give people your contact information if they want to get in touch with you?
Totally. Yeah. So I'm probably most active on Instagram. So folks can find me at Lazy Wellness Coach on Instagram. And same URL if you're looking for my website, it's lazywellnesscoach.com. So you can find me in any of those places, send me a message, send me an email, any questions. I love hearing from people. And one of the things that I'll say too, that's been so beautiful about the situation that we're in, which in many ways is very challenging, but so many silver linings that I have trouble not seeing. And one is that people have really been reaching out to be like, hey, can you make a yoga video to explain this? Can you do a meditation for this? You know, and that's like the stuff that I get the most excited about creating, is stuff that people specifically ask for. So, you know, if anything that we've talked about today is something that you want to go a little bit deeper into, I would love to get a message. And as I already said, and you can tell, I like to talk. So I'm like, give me more places to share, and I'd be really happy to.
Yes, that's one of the things I did notice about Megan is she's very good at communicating.
Thank you.
She writes well and speaks well, and so I can see how she's probably a good teacher at what she does. So I have a little quote for you to carry with you through your week, and that is, yoga is not a workout, it is a work in, and this is the point of spiritual practice, to make us teachable, to open us to our hearts and focus our awareness so that we can know what we already know and be what we already are. And that is a quote from Seattle Yoga News. So
yeah, I love it. It's great.
Yeah. So thanks again for coming today and sharing your journey. We have another great show planned for next week. Next Tuesday, my guest will be Lois Wagner. And Lois is actually from South Africa, and she will be talking about resilience after rape. And she has a very, though traumatic, a story that she has learned a lot from, and learned a lot about resilience and about recovering after trauma in your life. So tune in next Tuesday, 3 p.m. And that is also the title of our show. It's Resilience and Recovery After Rape. So that'll be next Tuesday, 3 p.m. And I'm just going to say bye for now. Thank you again, Megan.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Soul Fire Wisdom with Kate Olson. We hope you enjoyed the show. If we made you laugh, brightened your day, or sparked a new thought, we have succeeded in our mission. Join us next time when we'll share more secrets and truths and all the magic of transformation that is the journey to Soul Fire Wisdom. Always remember, be fierce in the pursuit of what sets your soul on fire.